Tonight, you are stepping away from the crowded streets of modern life and traveling back more than 2 centuries into the warm, mist-covered world of Edo, Japan. Imagine walking through quiet, lantern-lit streets after sunset, following a trail of steam rising from a hidden neighborhood bathhouse. Inside, beneath cedar beams and glowing paper lanterns, you will discover a world where samurai, merchants, and ordinary workers all set aside their status and entered the same peaceful waters. But 18th century Japanese bathhouses were not quite what you might imagine. Behind the calming steam were unusual traditions, strict customs, surprising beauty rituals, and a daily routine that reveals how differently people once viewed cleanliness, relaxation, and community. So settle in, get comfortable, and allow yourself to slow down as we uncover what really happened inside the bathhouses of Edo, Japan. Thank you for spending this quiet moment with us. If you enjoy these journeys through history, leave a comment below and tell us where you are watching from and what time it is where you are right now. Now, dim the lights, relax, and let the evening streets of Edo welcome you. Take a slow breath. There is nowhere urgent to be now. The day has already done most of its work, and evening has begun the quiet task of softening everything it touches. The sharp edges of rooftops blur beneath the last warm light. Shadows grow longer along narrow streets. Somewhere beyond the crowded neighborhoods, the sun slips gently toward the western hills, leaving Edo wrapped in layers of amber and blue. You have spent the day walking, perhaps farther than you intended. That is one of the curious habits of Edo. It is an enormous city, carefully arranged in ways that seem perfectly sensible until you attempt to reach the next street and somehow discover 3 canals, 2 shrines, a fish market, and an entirely different neighborhood, standing politely between you and your destination. Urban planning, it seems, has always contained an element of optimism. Fortunately, walking has been humanity's preferred method of solving confusing city layouts for thousands of years. Your sandals tap softly against packed earth as you continue through the evening streets. The city is still awake, though its pace has begun to slow. Shopkeepers pull wooden shutters across storefronts with practiced movements. Lanterns appear one by one beneath deep eaves, each casting a warm circle of golden light onto the road below. The faint clatter of wooden clogs drifts through the air, followed by distant conversation carried softly between neighboring houses. No one seems especially hurried. The day has reached that peaceful hour when work quietly loosens its grip and ordinary life begins reclaiming the streets. A breeze slips between the narrow lanes. It carries familiar scents: fresh rice, soy sauce, grilled fish from a nearby stall, cedar timber warmed by the fading sun. Somewhere, incense rises from a small household altar. Somewhere else, someone is preparing tea. The aromas overlap gently without competing, creating the unmistakable fragrance of a city settling comfortably into evening. Then another scent joins them: warm water, not merely warm, steaming, clean. You notice it before you see its source. The air itself feels slightly softer. Moisture hangs quietly above one particular corner of the neighborhood, rising into the cooling twilight in slow white ribbons. At first glance, it almost resembles morning fog that has somehow misplaced the time of day. But no, this is something much more inviting. You follow the steam. There is very little mystery involved. The building announces itself with quiet confidence, its tiled roof sits slightly lower than neighboring structures, while thick cedar walls have weathered into gentle shades of grey and brown. Above the entrance hangs a simple wooden sign. No unnecessary decoration, no elaborate promises. After all, everyone already knows why people come here. There is warm water inside. Sometimes life's greatest luxuries require surprisingly little advertising. The neighborhood Sento, the public bathhouse. In 18th century Edo, these bathhouses were not occasional indulgences. They were woven into everyday life. Most ordinary homes had neither the space nor the fuel to heat large baths each evening. Heating enough water for one family demanded considerable firewood. Heating enough water for an entire neighborhood simply made better sense. Economics occasionally produces remarkable comfort. A few neighbors arrive ahead of you. They exchange quiet greetings before disappearing through the entrance with the relaxed confidence of people following familiar routines. No ceremony, no hesitation, just another evening. You pause outside for a moment. Steam escapes every time the door opens. It rolls gently into the cool air before dissolving above the street. The effect is oddly peaceful. The entire building seems to breathe. In, out, slowly, patiently, like the city itself. A wooden bench rests beneath the eaves. An elderly man sits there for a moment, adjusting his sandals with the deliberate pace that comes from having absolutely nowhere else to hurry toward. He finishes, stands, walks inside. No one rushes him. The bathhouse has waited all day. It can certainly wait another few seconds. You step closer. The cedar beneath your fingertips feels smooth from generations of hands pushing the same door. The wood carries its own quiet scent, mingling with the warmth drifting outward from within. Inside, somewhere beyond the entrance, you hear the faint murmur of voices. Not loud, just comfortably human. Water splashes gently. A bucket is set carefully onto a wooden floor. Someone laughs softly before the sound melts back into the steady rhythm of the bathhouse. The noises never disturb the evening. They simply become part of it. Near the entrance sits the attendant. His small workspace is remarkably tidy. A ledger, a box, several neatly arranged wooden tokens, a lantern burning steadily beside them. He looks up as you approach. There is no elaborate welcome. Public bathhouses thrive on routine rather than spectacle. You bow politely. He returns the gesture with equal calm. The entrance fee is modest. Instead of modern coins or printed tickets, a small wooden token passes into his waiting hand. Simple, practical, remarkably difficult to misplace if it happens to be the size of a biscuit. Wood served many purposes in Edo. Buildings, shoes, buckets, bridges, cooking utensils, children's toys. Apparently, someone eventually examined a piece of cedar and thoughtfully concluded that it also possessed excellent financial potential. The tree, one imagines, accepted this promotion with quiet dignity. The attendant sets the token aside without counting it twice. Trust, while never perfect, remains a surprisingly efficient form of accounting, especially when everyone lives only a few streets away. You thank him softly. He nods toward the doorway beyond. At first, it appears strangely small. Then you remember. Of course, the doorway has been built deliberately low. Not because 18th century Japanese people collectively forgot how tall human beings could become. Quite the opposite. The lower opening serves an important purpose. Warm air rises. Steam, left entirely unsupervised, possesses a strong desire to escape. A shorter doorway persuades it to remain inside where it belongs. Architecture, in this case, conducts a polite negotiation with physics. Physics usually wins. Still, the doorway puts up admirable resistance. There is another quiet consequence. Every visitor must bow. Whether from courtesy or simple necessity, becomes wonderfully difficult to distinguish. Buildings occasionally teach manners more effectively than written laws. You lower your head, carefully. Human vanity has maintained a long and occasionally embarrassing rivalry with low beams throughout history. Many perfectly intelligent people have confidently assumed they could clear a doorway without bending. History also contains a remarkable number of bruised foreheads. Architects rarely mention this in their accomplishments. You duck beneath the lintel. The temperature changes immediately. Warmth settles gently around your shoulders. The cool evening breeze remains outside. The sounds of the street soften until they become little more than distant echoes beyond thick wooden walls. Inside, everything feels slower. Steam drifts lazily through the air, catching lantern light in pale ribbons. The cedar floor beneath your sandals has been worn silky smooth by countless careful footsteps. It gleams softly in the warm light. The atmosphere encourages a different pace. Your breathing slows almost without noticing. Your shoulders relax. The busy streets of Edo already feel farther away than the few steps separating you from them. Municipal officials in Edo occasionally devoted astonishing amounts of energy to regulating public bathhouses, opening hours, fire safety, construction materials, the spacing between buildings. Even steam under the right circumstances could become a matter of civic concern. One suspects that no civilization truly believes itself organized until it has written official opinions regarding warm water. Human beings have always possessed remarkable confidence in paperwork. Steam, meanwhile, has always continued drifting exactly where it pleases. Ahead lies the changing room, warm, quiet, simple. Wooden shelves line the walls. Wicker baskets wait patiently for folded clothing. The gentle sounds of bathing drift from somewhere deeper within the building, softened by cedar partitions and rising clouds of steam. You pause at the threshold for one last slow breath. The warmth settles comfortably around you. Outside, twilight continues spreading across the streets of Edo. Inside, another kind of evening has begun, and with unhurried hands, you step into the changing room, ready to loosen the weight of the day, one careful layer at a time. You step fully into the changing room, and the warmth settles around you like a well-folded blanket. The air is comfortably humid, though not yet as thick as it will become beyond the next room. Here, the steam arrives gently, filtered through cedar walls and drifting lazily beneath the rafters, before disappearing into the evening air that patiently waits outside. The sounds are softer here, low conversation, the faint rustle of folded cloth, a wooden basket being placed carefully upon a shelf. Somewhere farther inside, water splashes with slow, rhythmic regularity. No one seems hurried. There is something quietly reassuring about entering a place where the day's obligations are expected to remain politely outside with everyone's sandals. The changing room, known as the Datsuba, is simple. It does not pretend to be grand. Cedar boards line the walls from floor to ceiling, their warm color deepened by decades of steam. Every surface has acquired the gentle smoothness that only thousands of careful hands can create. Shelves run neatly along one side of the room. Upon them sit rows of woven baskets. No locks, no complicated mechanisms, just baskets. Each waits patiently for another visitor's clothing, much as it has every evening for years. It is an arrangement built almost entirely upon trust, or perhaps upon the practical observation that stealing another person's robe from a public bathhouse is a remarkably inconvenient crime. One would leave with an additional garment, but considerably fewer friends. Community possesses surprisingly effective methods of discouraging poor decisions. You select an empty basket. It is woven from bamboo, light in your hands, yet carefully made. Every strip bends neatly into the next, creating a pattern that is both practical and quietly beautiful. Many ordinary objects in Edo seem to share this quality. Beauty appears less interested in announcing itself than in quietly accompanying useful work. You begin removing the layers of the day. Your outer robe first, its fabric carries traces of the evening streets, the cool breeze, the faint scent of cedar smoke drifting between houses, dust gathered during long hours of walking. You fold it carefully. There is no reason to rush. The bathhouse has been standing here long before you arrived. It is in no danger of leaving before you are ready. One garment follows another, each neatly folded, each resting gently inside the basket. By the time you finish, the weight of the day seems to have disappeared, along with the clothing itself. It is remarkable how often people mistake heavy fabric for responsibility. Around you, others perform the same quiet ritual. Without robes, coats, swords, elaborate sleeves, expensive silks, or embroidered crests, everyone begins to look wonderfully human. Perhaps this is one of the bathhouse's most curious traditions. Outside these walls, Edo is carefully arranged into ranks: samurai, merchants, craftsmen, laborers. Each occupies a clearly understood place within society. The rules governing these distinctions are detailed enough to satisfy even the most enthusiastic government official. There are regulations concerning clothing, regulations concerning swords, regulations concerning hairstyles, regulations concerning which colors may be worn by whom. Civilizations often display remarkable confidence in their ability to organize humanity into tidy categories. Then everyone visits the bathhouse. The distinctions become considerably harder to maintain. A fine silk robe and a patched cotton jacket occupy neighboring baskets with complete indifference. A wealthy merchant carefully folds his garments beside those of a carpenter. A respected samurai quietly sets aside the two swords that ordinarily announce his status long before he ever speaks. The swords remain outside. The steam, quite sensibly, appears unimpressed by military rank. Within these cedar walls, everyone carries the same wooden bucket. Everyone washes. Everyone sweats. Everyone eventually resembles someone who has spent time sitting in warm water. The bath proves remarkably democratic. Water, after all, has never developed a reliable method for identifying social class. You notice an elderly samurai carefully arranging his folded clothing with almost ceremonial precision. Nearby, a young fish seller performs exactly the same task. The baskets seem entirely unconcerned with the difference. There is something quietly comforting about this, not because society disappears. It does not. When everyone leaves, they will once again return to the complicated rhythms of Edo life. But for a little while, beneath rising steam, the city loosens its grip on hierarchy. Even dignity relaxes. No one can maintain an especially intimidating appearance while carrying a wooden wash bucket. History rarely mentions this. Perhaps it should. Your attention wanders naturally around the room. One gentleman carefully smooths his hair before entering the bathing area. His hairstyle has clearly required considerable effort. 18th century fashion possesses a fascinating relationship with natural appearance. Namely, it often demands extraordinary labor in order to appear effortless. Hair is dressed with oils and waxes that keep every strand obediently in place. Camellia oil lends a healthy shine. Other preparations provide hold sturdy enough to survive wind, humidity, and what appears to be several philosophical disagreements with gravity. The result is undeniably elegant. It is also slightly glossy. Under the lantern light, several carefully arranged hairstyles gleam with such determination that they might reasonably qualify as polished furniture. Fashion has always required sacrifice, occasionally from the wearer, occasionally from nearby pillowcases. You imagine the amount of patient maintenance required each morning, hours of careful arrangement, only for evening to arrive and send everyone peacefully into a room filled with steam. The hair, one suspects, accepted this routine with quiet resignation. Another bather smiles warmly while speaking with an acquaintance. His teeth are striking, not because they are white, quite the opposite. They have been blackened to a smooth lacquered sheen. At first, the sight surprises you. Then you remember, this too is fashion. The custom of tooth blackening, known as ohagoro, is widely practiced among married women and, during various periods, among members of certain social classes as well. To modern eyes, it appears unusual. To Edo society, it represents refinement. Beauty has always been wonderfully unpredictable. Every century confidently announces its newest standard before quietly handing the responsibility to the next generation, who immediately find it rather puzzling. The black lacquer itself serves practical purposes as well. It helps protect the teeth. Admittedly, this benefit arrives wrapped inside an aesthetic choice that many future visitors would politely describe as unexpected. Still, one might observe that history has produced powdered wigs, towering collars, impossible shoes, and enough questionable facial hair to occupy several museums. No era escapes, entirely unembarrassed. Nearby, another visitor applies a small amount of fragrant oil to his hands. Someone else checks the smoothness of carefully maintained eyebrows using the polished surface of a bronze mirror. Tiny jars of powder, small combs carved from boxwood, simple cloths, neatly folded towels. The changing room contains countless quiet rituals performed with practiced ease, not out of vanity alone, though vanity certainly makes occasional appearances. Mostly, these routines reflect ordinary care. People have always hoped to look their best, even if their best occasionally involved cosmetics that later generations would examine with affectionate confusion. A faint scent of camellia blossoms drifts through the warm air. It mingles with cedar, clean cotton, and rising steam. The atmosphere grows softer with every passing moment. Conversation slows. Voices become quieter. One by one, visitors lift their wooden buckets. Some carry small stools tucked beneath one arm. Others simply walk with relaxed familiarity toward the next room. You do the same. Your own bucket feels light in your hand. The cedar handle has been polished smooth by years of use. Ahead stands the heavy sliding door leading into the bathing chamber itself. It is broader than the entrance outside, yet equally solid, built to hold back the dense warmth waiting beyond. Steam curls gently beneath its lower edge, escaping in thin white ribbons that disappear across the wooden floor. Behind it, Water splashes softly. The sounds echo through cedar beams with comforting rhythm. Warmth presses quietly against the other side. You pause for one slow breath. The changing room has gently relieved you of clothing, titles, expectations, and much of the day's weariness. Now only one doorway remains. You place your hand against the smooth wooden panel. It feels pleasantly warm beneath your fingertips. With calm curiosity and the steady patience that the evening has taught you, you begin to slide the door open, stepping toward the waiting embrace of steam. The wooden door begins to slide with a long, gentle whisper. Its weight is reassuring. The cedar glides smoothly along its worn track, polished by generations of careful hands performing exactly the same quiet movement at exactly this point in their evening. As the opening widens, a deeper warmth greets you. Not the comfortable warmth of the changing room. This is richer, heavier. The air itself feels almost tangible, wrapped in layers of fragrant steam that drifts slowly through the bathing hall before disappearing into the rafters high above. You step inside. Almost immediately, the outside world vanishes. The vapor softens every edge. Lantern light becomes gentle halos suspended within the mist. Figures move quietly beyond shifting curtains of steam, their outlines appearing and disappearing as though the bathhouse itself is dreaming. The cedar walls glow softly beneath the warm light. Dark beams stretch overhead like the branches of an ancient forest, disappearing into clouds of moisture where the ceiling can barely be seen. The room feels much larger than it first appeared. Steam has a curious habit of making distances seem peaceful rather than empty. Nothing demands your attention. Everything invites patience. The scent is unmistakable. Fresh cedar, warm water, clean wood, a trace of camellia oil, rice bran. Soap, as you know it, has not yet entered everyday life here. Instead, the bathhouse carries the fragrance of simpler materials that have quietly served generations without asking for applause. Water splashes somewhere nearby, not loudly, just enough to remind you that dozens of ordinary routines are unfolding together in remarkable harmony. A wooden bucket fills, another empties. Someone gently rinses a stool. A quiet laugh rises briefly before dissolving into the mist. The conversations remain soft, almost whispered. No one wishes to disturb the calm. It is remarkable how naturally people lower their voices around warm water. Perhaps steam absorbs unnecessary words. Or perhaps comfort simply removes the need to speak very much at all. Before you lies the washing area. Low wooden stools stand in orderly rows. Beside each rests a bucket, simple, unadorned, perfectly practical. Nothing about this arrangement has happened accidentally. Bathing in Edo follows a clear order. First, you wash. Only then do you enter the shared bath. This is not merely good manners. It is expected. The large communal tub is reserved for soaking, not scrubbing. Centuries before laminated instruction signs and politely worded reminders appeared in modern bathhouses, the custom had already become deeply rooted. Human beings, it seems, have always appreciated clean water, especially when everyone intends to share it. You select an empty stool. It is lower than your instincts initially expect. For one mildly uncertain moment, your knees question the decision. Then, you settle comfortably. The stool remains perfectly stable. It has likely witnessed this exact hesitation thousands of times before. Nearby waits your wooden bucket. Its smooth rim catches the lantern light. You dip it carefully into a basin of hot water. Steam curls upward as you lift it. The bucket feels surprisingly satisfying in your hands. Simple craftsmanship possesses its own quiet elegance. There are no unnecessary decorations, only cedar shaped thoughtfully into something useful. You raise the bucket, slowly. The warm water pours across your shoulders. Heat spreads gently down your back. The sensation is immediate, not startling, just deeply comforting. Another bucket follows, then another. Each pour carries away another layer of dust, travel, and lingering thoughts from the busy streets outside. The water splashes softly onto the cedar floor before disappearing between narrow channels, carefully designed to carry it away. Even drainage here seems remarkably well behaved. Someone undoubtedly spent years perfecting this system. Civilizations occasionally reveal their greatest ambitions in surprisingly damp places. Beside your bucket rests a small cloth pouch. You pick it up with quiet curiosity. Inside lies finely ground rice bran, a nuka bukuro. It feels soft beneath your fingertips. When dampened, the bran creates a gentle paste that cleanses the skin with surprising effectiveness. Rice has nourished Japan for centuries. Naturally, someone eventually looked at the leftovers and thoughtfully concluded they might also improve one's complexion. Human ingenuity has always displayed admirable determination when confronted with ordinary household ingredients. You dampen the little sack. The bran releases a faint, earthy fragrance. Slowly, you rub it across your hands, your arms, your shoulders. The texture is delicate, far gentler than harsh scrubbing. The movement itself becomes almost meditative. Small circles, steady breathing, warm water, steam drifting lazily around you. Nearby, another visitor performs exactly the same careful routine. No one rushes. There would be little point. The bath waits patiently. It has spent the entire day warming itself. It can certainly spare another few minutes. Across the room, an elderly man pours water over his shoulders with practiced precision. Each movement appears almost ceremonial, not because anyone instructed him to make it so, simply because repetition has transformed ordinary actions into graceful habits. This may be one of humanity's quietest talents. Repeat something often enough with sufficient care, and eventually it begins to resemble art. Brewing tea, sweeping a floor, folding cloth, washing before a bath. The task remains ordinary, only the attention changes. Bathing etiquette in Edo is remarkably disciplined. Wash thoroughly, rinse completely, avoid splashing others, keep the shed water clean. Do not treat the bathing tub as though it were your personal laundry. These expectations require no raised voices. Everyone simply understands. Occasionally, one imagines that civilizations survive not because of great armies or impressive castles, but because enough people quietly agree not to rinse dusty feet in communal baths. History often overlooks such achievements. It probably should not. The steam thickens around you. Lantern light filters through it in soft ribbons of gold. The walls seem farther away now. The sounds, gentler still. Water falling into water. Buckets touching cedar. The slow murmur of neighbors exchanging quiet observations about weather, family, or tomorrow's market. No one appears especially interested in impressing anyone else. There is something wonderfully freeing about that. The bathhouse has already removed fine robes, polished swords, elaborate hairstyles, and embroidered sleeves from the evening's calculations. Now it quietly removes pretense as well. Everyone washes, everyone steams, everyone emerges looking pleasantly relaxed. It is difficult to maintain excessive self-importance while carefully pouring warm water over your own shoulders with a cedar bucket. The bucket, to its credit, treats everyone equally. You rinse away the last traces of rice bran. Fresh water flows gently across your skin. The warmth settles deeply into tired muscles. The day's walking no longer feels quite so distant. Your breathing slows naturally, in, out. The room seems to breathe with you. Steam rises, condenses, disappears, rises again. High overhead, droplets gather upon the dark cedar beams before quietly falling back into the mist below. The entire hall participates in an endless cycle of warmth and water. Nothing feels hurried. Nothing feels wasted. You set the bucket down beside the stool. Its wooden base meets the floor with the softest of sounds. Ahead, partly hidden behind drifting curtains of steam, the great bathing tub waits. It stretches across much of the room, built entirely from massive cedar planks bound tightly together. The water within is perfectly still, except where gentle ripples spread outward from bathers already soaking in peaceful silence. Steam rises from its broad surface in slow white clouds. The tub seems less like furniture and more like a quiet pond, carefully brought indoors. Several bathers already rest within it, their shoulders just above the waterline, eyes half closed, faces carrying the unmistakable expression people who have temporarily reached an agreement with the world. No one speaks loudly. There is no need. The warm water conducts its own conversation. You step carefully toward the edge. The cedar beneath your feet is pleasantly warm. The steam wraps gently around you. You pause for one final, slow breath, allowing the quiet rhythm of splashing water and whispered voices to settle comfortably in your thoughts. Then, with unhurried care, you place one foot into the waiting warmth and slowly begin lowering yourself into the great steaming bath. The water welcomes you all at once. For one brief moment, your body politely questions every decision that has brought you here. The bath is hot, not aggressively so, simply with the quiet confidence of water that has spent the better part of the day convincing generations of visitors that comfort occasionally begins with a deep breath and a little patience. You lower yourself another inch, then another. The warmth rises around your legs, your back, your shoulders, until only your head remains above the surface. You exhale slowly. The water answers with a circle of gentle ripples that spread across the broad cedar tub before disappearing beneath the drifting steam. Within a few peaceful moments, the initial surprise fades. The heat no longer feels overwhelming. Instead, it begins its slow, patient work. The stiffness in your feet softens first, then your calves. The ache that has quietly settled into your shoulders after a long day wandering the streets of Edo gradually loosens, as though each muscle has decided there is no longer any point in arguing. Warm water has always possessed remarkable negotiating skills. Very little wins an argument against it. You lean back slightly. The smooth cedar edge rests comfortably against your shoulders. Its wood has absorbed years of warmth, carrying a faint fragrance that mingles beautifully with the rising steam. Every breath seems slower now. The air itself has become softer. Lantern light drifts through the mist in pale amber ribbons, turning every droplet into tiny points of gold before they quietly vanish again. Time behaves differently inside the bath. Outside, bells measure the hours, markets open, shops close, officials write regulations, messengers hurry from one district to another, carrying important documents that are almost certainly folded with great seriousness inside the bathhouse. Time simply floats. Conversation drifts gently around the room. No one raises a voice. The steam seems to encourage moderation. Words travel only a short distance before dissolving into warmth. You overhear fragments rather than entire stories. Someone mentions a neighbor's unusually energetic rooster. Another quietly complains that this year's rice harvest appears slightly less cooperative than hoped. An elderly gentleman insists that the fish sold near the Eastern Bridge were noticeably larger when he was young. History has preserved kings, battles, and treaties. It has been far less diligent about recording discussions concerning poultry and fish. This feels like a missed opportunity. A younger bather shares an urban legend in the patient tone reserved for stories that everyone secretly enjoys despite politely pretending skepticism. Apparently, a fox spirit was seen walking near the river at dusk several evenings ago. It wore elegant clothing. Naturally, fox spirits are widely believed to possess excellent taste in garments. Someone else gently suggests that perhaps it was simply a merchant returning home in poor lighting. This possibility receives thoughtful consideration before being quietly ignored. Some stories are simply more comfortable than ordinary explanations. The bathhouse has always been a place where such tales linger. Steam and folklore appear remarkably compatible. Both drift gently from person to person, changing shape ever so slightly with each retelling. Across the room, another conversation touches upon a more earthly subject: government regulations. The topic arrives with calm familiarity. Every large city accumulates rules. Edo possesses an admirable collection. The Tokugawa shogunate is deeply interested in maintaining order. Order requires regulations. Regulations require officials. Officials, once properly supplied with ink and paper, occasionally become wonderfully ambitious. Among the many concerns occupying thoughtful administrators are the public bathhouses. For years, authorities have attempted to shape bathhouse customs according to changing ideas of propriety. Mixed bathing has attracted particular attention. From time to time, an official proclamation appears declaring that men and women should bathe separately. The announcement is carefully written, properly stamped, respectfully distributed. One imagines it arrives with considerable confidence. The bathhouse, meanwhile, continues being a bathhouse. Owners nod politely. Citizens acknowledge the announcement. Life proceeds. Rules are interpreted, adjusted, occasionally forgotten. Eventually, another proclamation appears. History repeats itself with admirable consistency. It is difficult not to admire the optimism involved. The government writes another decree. Warm water continues being pleasantly warm. Human beings continue enjoying it. Some contests simply lack a dramatic conclusion. One begins to suspect that the true strength of civilization lies not in perfect obedience, but in everyone's quiet talent for finding comfortable compromises. The steam remains entirely neutral on the subject. It wraps itself around everyone equally. The water refuses to inquire about legal interpretations. Nearby, an elderly man chuckles softly while recalling a regulation from years before concerning bathhouse operating hours. Another visitor mentions fire inspectors. This, at least, is understandable. Edo is largely built from wood. Wood and open flames maintain an ancient relationship that requires careful supervision. Entire neighborhoods depend upon caution. Bathhouses consume enormous quantities of heated water. Officials become understandably attentive. The bathhouse owners equally understandably, become remarkably skilled at satisfying inspections while continuing to provide the warm evenings their neighborhoods expect. Human history contains countless examples of practical people quietly cooperating with official paperwork, just enough to allow ordinary life to continue. There is almost something comforting about its predictability. You sink a little deeper into the water. Only your shoulders and face remain above the surface now. Your hands drift lazily beneath the warmth. Every movement creates slow ripples that gently meet those of the other bathers. The water seems to remind everyone that they share the same quiet space. No one rushes to leave. Indeed, leaving begins to feel increasingly unreasonable. Outside waits cooler air, responsibilities, tomorrow. Inside waits warm cedar water. The comparison is hardly fair. Perhaps this explains why bathhouse attendants occasionally found themselves encouraging visitors not to remain quite so long. The water could become almost hypnotic. Minutes quietly transformed into half an hour. Half an hour developed surprisingly convincing arguments for becoming an hour. The body, having finally discovered complete comfort, displayed very little enthusiasm for abandoning it. This tendency appears remarkably timeless. Centuries pass, technology advances, empires rise and fall. Still, whenever people discover warm water and a peaceful place to sit, someone inevitably says, "Just 5 more minutes." History smiles gently. It has heard this before. The room grows quieter still. Several conversations fade naturally into comfortable silence. No one seems eager to interrupt it. The only remaining sounds are those that have accompanied you since entering the bathhouse. The gentle movement of water, soft breathing, an occasional bucket being lifted somewhere beyond the steam, droplets falling from the rafters with patient regularity. The cedar walls seem to hold every sound carefully, never allowing any of them to become harsh. You close your eyes for a moment, not to sleep, simply to listen. The warmth settles deeper still. Your feet feel lighter, your shoulders almost forgotten. The day's long walk through Edo has dissolved into the water without complaint. It becomes difficult to remember why you ever felt tired in the first place. Eventually, though, every bath reaches its natural ending. Not because comfort disappears, quite the opposite, because the warmth has done everything it quietly promised. Slowly, reluctantly, you open your eyes again. The lanterns glow softly through the thinning steam. The cedar tub continues holding the peaceful conversations of those who choose to remain a little longer. You place your hands against the smooth wooden edge. The water slips gently from your arms as you rise. For a brief moment, the cooler air kisses your skin. Instead of feeling cold, it feels wonderfully fresh. You step carefully onto the warm cedar floor. Droplets fall quietly around your feet. Your body feels strangely light now, as though the water has carried away not only the dust of the streets, but the weight of the day itself. Wrapped in gentle warmth from head to toe, you take one slow, grateful breath before beginning the peaceful walk toward the changing room once more. The warmth follows you for several quiet steps. Even after leaving the great cedar bath, it seems unwilling to let go. Tiny droplets of water slide slowly from your shoulders as you walk back through the softly drifting steam. Behind you, the bathing hall continues its gentle rhythm. Water ripples. Buckets are lifted and set down with quiet care. Voices remain low enough to become part of the warmth itself. You pause for one last moment before sliding the heavy cedar door closed. It moves with the same patient whisper as before. The steam settles behind it. The sounds become softer still. And once again, you find yourself standing within the peaceful calm of the Datsuba. The changing room feels different now, not because it has changed, because you have. The day's dust has disappeared. The stiffness has dissolved somewhere into the warm bath water, carried away without complaint. Your breathing has become slower. Your shoulders rest naturally instead of quietly holding the weight of hours you scarcely noticed you were carrying. The cedar floor feels pleasantly warm beneath your feet. Someone nearby quietly dries their hair with a simple cotton cloth. Another visitor carefully folds the small towel that accompanied him into the bath. No one seems eager to hurry home. Bathhouses possess a curious ability to stretch the evening. Once the body has reached complete comfort, the mind becomes surprisingly reluctant to return to ordinary concerns. You reach for your own towel. The cotton is soft from many careful washings. You dry your arms first, then your shoulders, your hair. Every movement is slow. There's no need to rush now. Outside, the city will still be waiting. It has managed perfectly well without your attention for the last hour. It can wait another minute or two. One by one, the remaining droplets disappear. Your skin still carries the gentle warmth of the cedar bath. It seems to glow from within, rather than merely from the air around you. Nearby rests a neatly folded cotton yukata. Simple, light, wonderfully comfortable. Compared with the heavier garments worn through the streets of Edo, it feels almost effortless. You lift it carefully. The cotton is cool for only an instant before your own warmth welcomes it. The fabric settles softly across your shoulders. Its texture is smooth without being delicate, practical enough for everyday life, comfortable enough to encourage lingering. Many remarkable inventions have required years of experimentation. The loose cotton robe seems to have arrived at perfection with admirable efficiency. You tie the sash with an easy knot. Immediately, everything feels lighter. Perhaps elegance occasionally succeeds not by adding complexity, but by quietly removing it. The woven basket waits patiently where you left it. Your folded clothes remain exactly as you arranged them. There is something comforting about discovering that the world has behaved itself while you were away. Human beings appreciate small certainties. A familiar robe, a waiting basket, warm floors beneath tired feet. History often celebrates dramatic discoveries, yet ordinary contentment has probably improved more lives. A sliding screen opens softly nearby. Beyond it lies a small resting area. You wander toward it almost without thinking. Several low wooden benches rest beside paper screens that face a tiny enclosed garden. The garden is modest, a smooth stone, a lantern, carefully raked gravel. One maple tree whose leaves move gently whenever the evening breeze finds its way inside. Nothing appears excessive. Nothing competes for attention. The quiet arrangement somehow makes the space feel larger than it truly is. An attendant carries a tray with unhurried steps, simple cups, a kettle of warm tea. Alongside it rests cool spring water drawn earlier in the day. Neither choice announces itself as superior, warmth after warmth, or coolness after warmth. Human civilization has been peacefully divided on this matter for centuries. You choose a cup of tea. The porcelain feels pleasantly warm between your hands. Steam rises in delicate curls. The fragrance is gentle, earthy, familiar. You lift the cup. The first sip is almost impossibly soothing. Not because it is elaborate, quite the opposite. It asks nothing of you. No excitement, no surprise, only quiet warmth arriving exactly when it is welcome. Across the room, another guest slowly drinks cool spring water instead. He closes his eyes with equal satisfaction. It becomes clear that happiness occasionally refuses to choose sides. The paper screens glow softly. Outside, the last traces of twilight have quietly surrendered tonight. The lantern in the garden burns with a steady amber light. Beyond the bathhouse walls, Edo continues breathing. Footsteps pass now and then along the street. Someone slides shut a wooden storefront. A distant bell echoes gently across the rooftops. Farther away, perhaps a temple gong answers with one deep, patient note that hangs in the cool air before fading into silence. The city has become quieter, not asleep, simply resting. It has worked since dawn. Now it gathers itself beneath thousands of tiled roofs and paper windows. Families prepare for bed. Lantern flames grow smaller. Conversations soften. The same moon that watched over the narrow streets when you arrived now climbs a little higher above the rooftops, silver light settling softly across canals, bridges, and quiet gardens. You finish the last of your tea. Only a little warmth remains in the cup. You hold it for another moment anyway. Some comforts deserve to linger. Eventually, every peaceful evening reaches the gentle moment when it asks nothing more of you. You rise slowly. The cotton yukata moves softly with each step. You thank the attendant with a quiet bow. He returns it with calm familiarity. No lengthy farewell is needed. The bathhouse has welcomed countless visitors before you. It will welcome countless more tomorrow evening. Some traditions survive because they continue making ordinary days a little gentler. You slide open the outer door. Cool night air greets your face. Not cold, just fresh. After the warmth inside, it feels wonderfully clear. You step onto the quiet street. The wooden buildings of Edo stand peacefully beneath the moonlight. Paper lanterns glow outside a handful of homes. The canals reflect tiny ribbons of gold. Somewhere nearby, water trickles beneath a small bridge with the same patient rhythm it has followed for generations. Your footsteps are slower now, not from tiredness, from ease. Every muscle feels loose. Every breath arrives naturally. The weight of the day has remained behind somewhere inside those cedar walls, dissolved into warm water and rising steam. You walk home through the sleeping streets. The city no longer feels confusing. The winding lanes that earlier seemed determined to test every traveler's sense of direction now guide you gently forward. Even Edo's famously enthusiastic approach to complicated neighborhoods appears almost affectionate beneath the moon. Perhaps every old city secretly hopes that those who wander slowly will notice more along the way. Soon your home appears. The familiar doorway, the quiet room beyond. Your futon has been waiting patiently all evening, displaying the remarkable confidence common to comfortable bedding throughout history. It never hurries. It simply trusts that eventually you will return. You slide the door closed behind you. The room is peaceful. The night is still. You lower yourself onto the soft bedding. The cotton feels cool for only a moment before welcoming your lingering warmth from the bathhouse. Outside, the distant city continues its quiet breathing. Inside, there is only calm, only comfort, only rest. So allow your thoughts to become as gentle as drifting steam rising from warm cedar water. Allow the memory of the bath to remain with you, the fragrance of cedar, the quiet whisper of paper screens, the soft splash of water. the warmth settling into tired muscles, the lanterns glowing through the mist, the peaceful conversations fading into silence. Imagine the whole city of Edo sleeping beneath the moon, wrapped in quiet rooftops and winding streets, while somewhere a neighborhood bathhouse still breathes softly into the cool night. There is nowhere else you need to go. Nothing left to carry, nothing left to do. The evening has ended. The water has grown still. The lanterns burn low. Your breathing slows. Your body grows pleasantly heavy. Your mind becomes quiet. And now, just as the people of old Edo did after a warm bath at the end of a long day, you may simply close your eyes, breathe slowly, feel the last gentle warmth surrounding you like a soft cotton robe, and drift peacefully into deep, restful sleep while the quiet night watches over you until morning.